Hi everyone, this is Tapasya, and let's begin our session today on a very important writer of American literature, that is Allen Ginsberg. Allen Ginsberg was born in New York, that is NJ, in June 3, 1926, and he was an American poet and leading epistle of the Beat generation. And his first published work, that was Howl and Other Poems 1956, which was published in this year, sparked the San Francisco Renaissance and defined the generation of 50s. And Ginsberg was also the part of countercultural revolution of 60s. So in 1960s, while vigorously participating in the anti-Vietnam War movement, he published several poetic works, including Reality Sandwiches. This was published in 1963, and Planet News. This was published in 1969, and The Fall of America received the National Book Award in 1974. If we talk about his biography, he was born in a Jewish family in Newark, New Jersey, Newark. His mother suffered from periods of mental illness, which disturbed Ginsberg greatly. And later, this would lead to his famous work, Kaddish, Kaddish. So his mother was also a member of Communist Party and sometimes took her sons along to the local meetings. So as a young teenager, Ginsberg began to write letters to the New York Times about political issues such as World War II and workers' rights. So while in high school, Ginsberg began reading Walt Whitman, which later became a major influence for him. And in 1943, Ginsberg graduated from high school and briefly attended Montclair State College before entering the Columbia University on a scholarship from the Young Men's Hebrew Association of Paterson. So while at Columbia, Ginsberg contributed to the Columbia Review literary journal, the Jester Humor magazine, won the Woodsbury Poetry Prize, and served as the president of Philolexian Society, PHILOLEXIAN, Philolexian Society, the campus literary and debate group. And then, if we talk about his career, uh, though you'll find in that in early he had intentions to be a labor lawyer, Ginsberg wrote poetry for most of his life, and most of this were very early poetry, and this was written in formal rhyme and meter, like that of his father or his idol, William Blake. Okay, and so you should remember Allen Ginsberg idol was William Blake, and his admiration for writing of Jack Kerouac, Kerouac, inspired him to take poetry more seriously. And though he took odd jobs to support himself, in 1955, upon the advice of psychiatrist, Ginsberg dropped out of the working world to devote his entire life to poetry. And soon after, we'll see that he wrote the famous poem Howl, that brought him and his family much fame and allowed him to live as a professional poet for the rest of his life. And then we'll find that in October 1955, Ginsberg and five other unknown poets gave a free reading at an experimental art gallery in San Francisco. And Ginsberg Howl electrified the audience. So, according to the fellow poet, that is Michael McClure, Michael, Michael, McClure, M small c, capital C again, and Lure. It was clear that a barrier had been broken, that a human voice and body had been hurled against the harsh wall of America, and its supporting armies and navies and academies and institutions and ownership systems and powerful support bases. I'm repeating it again. His fellow poet, that is Michael McClure, has quoted saying that a barrier had been broken, that a human voice and body had been hurled against the harsh wall of America, and its supporting armies and navies and academies and institutions and ownership systems and power support bases. So in 1957, Howl attracted widespread publicity when it became the subject of obscenity trial in which a San Francisco prosecutors argued it contained that the matter of Howl contained filthy, vulgar, obscene, and disgusting language. So let's talk about Howl, the famous work written by Allen Ginsberg, by which he was, given a tag of a professional writer. So Howl is considered to be one of the most important work of the Beat generation. And the poem seemed especially outrageous in 1950s America because it depicted both heterosexual and homosexual sex at a time when sodomy laws made homosexual act a crime in every US state, and Howl reflected Ginsburg's own homosexuality. So it was initially written as a performance piece, and the poem consisted of 3 parts. Now let's talk about Ginsburg Activism. Ginsburg was a practicing Buddhist who studied Eastern religious disciplines. One of his most influential teacher was a Tibetan Buddhist, and the name was Chogyam Trungpa, Chogyam Trungpa. He was the founder of Naropa Institute, and now Naropa University in Colorado. So at Trungpa's urging, Ginsburg and poet Anne Waldman started a poetry school there in 1974, which they call it as Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics. Jack Kerouac, Kerouac School of Disembodied, Disembodied Poetics. Now, in spite of his attraction in Eastern religion, the journalist Jane Kramer argues that Ginsburg, like Whitman, adhered to an American brand of mysticism, and that was, in her words, that she said that rooted in humanism and in the romantics and visionary ideals of harmony among men. I'm repeating it again. Rooted in humanism and in a romantic and visionary ideal of harmony among men. So Ginsburg political activism was consistent with his religious beliefs, and he took part in decades of non-violent political protest against everything from the Vietnam War to the war on drugs. I'm sorry. The literary critique, that is Helen Wendler, describes Ginsburg as tirelessly persistent in protesting censorship, imperial politics, and persecution of the powerless. And his achievement as a writer, as well as his notoriety as an activist, gained him honor for established institutions. And Ginsburg book of poem, that is The Fall of America, won the National Book Award for Poetry in 1974. And other honors include the National Art Club Gold Medal and his induction into the American Academy and Institute of Art and Letters. So both in 1979. Now, Ginsburg was a Pulitzer Prize finalist in 1995 for the book Cosmopolitan Greetings, Poems, Cosmopolitan Greetings, Poems. This was published in year 1986 to 1992. So, let's go through his awards again. National Book Award for Poetry in 1974 for Fall of America. Pulitzer Prize finalist in 1995 for book Cosmopolitan Greetings, poem. He also received National Art Club Gold Medal and American Academy and Institution of Arts and Letter member. Okay. There were three important work that we need to remember: Howl and Other Poems, 1956, Kaddish and Other Poems,